Today, I wanted to talk about dating red flags. And I am not going to be going into the super obvious stuff here, like hot and cold communication or clear indicators that someone is looking for something casual. I am here to help you discern the sneaky ones, the ones that fly under the radar because they seem to have a lot of potential. They're giving you a lot of the right signals, they're saying the right things, but then they turn out to be a total dud. I think this is a really important topic to talk about because we currently live in a time where emotionally unavailable and emotionally unaware and damaged people are becoming a lot more prevalent in the dating pool. And this is making it a lot trickier than ever for us to figure out who's actually serious and ready to commit to a long-term relationship versus the people that like the idea of it but aren't actually ready for it. So in this video, I am going to be sharing the 5 signs that are super easy to overlook that might signal that someone is not actually ready for a healthy long-term relationship. The first biggest red flag is that they treat you like you are special. And what I mean by this is that this person is changing their behaviors because of you in the early stages of dating, because they're trying to win you over. And naturally, of course, everyone is going to be on their best behavior in the early stages of dating. But when someone treats you just a little bit too special and they're putting in a lot of effort that doesn't seem natural to them, it is probably not who they really are. It means that their actions are likely not going to be sustainable, and it is a mask that will drop when you truly get to know them. So if they start saying things to you like, oh, I've never done this for a girl before, I'm only doing this for you, that is a possible red flag. So let me give you an example. I once dated a guy who said to me, oh, my ex-girlfriend used to plan all of our dates and we always went 50-50. But then with me, he planned all of the dates and he paid for all of them. But he was only doing it because he thought that I was special and he wanted to get to know me more and he wanted to impress me. So he was putting in a lot more effort than he normally would with another girl. And the issue with this is that it's not sustainable because it's not a true reflection of his values and who he is and how he likes to treat women that he's dating. But at the time, I fell into the trap of thinking,
oh my gosh, that's so cute, he really likes me, he's changing his behavior and doing all of this stuff for me.
And I think the general tendency is to be super flattered and think that it's like really sweet when someone regards you as being really special. But now I just see it as a red flag. Because the truth is, when someone has known you for a while and they've been with you for a year, you're not going to be special anymore. They're going to be used to you. They're not going to be trying to impress you anymore. And you're not going to be getting that special treatment anymore. So I think it's really important to see how they have acted in past relationships because that's probably how they're going to eventually treat you. People are always going to default back to who they really are, especially once they have gotten used to you and now they're comfortable with you. Because at that point, you're not new, you're not novel. They don't have to chase you anymore because they already have you. And that's when their mask is going to drop. So I would say just be very wary of anyone who is going above and beyond in the early dating stages just to get to know you and spend more time with you. Your job early in dating is to figure out who that person really is and evaluate if their true self matches what you want in a long-term partner. The second biggest red flag is when someone has low self-esteem and tries really hard to win you over. Someone that says that you are out of their league is not a compliment. It is a recipe for disaster. Because a lot of the time, if they think that you're out of their league, they will sabotage the relationship, they will struggle to stay with you, and they will eventually leave because they don't feel good enough or deserving of you. When someone feels that way, they tend to treat you extremely well at first because they want the validation of winning you over. But once you're actually in the relationship with them, their behavior will gradually worsen over time and they'll start treating you poorly. These relationships tend to follow a very predictable pattern. It starts with initial idealization where they put you on a pedestal and they think that you're the best thing ever. And then that gets followed by withdrawal and devaluation because their insecurities start to take over. And this happens because they don't feel worthy of being with you. And deep down, they don't believe that they can meet your standards or live up to the ideal they have of you in their head. This has happened to me before in relationships where I have ended up in a dynamic where the person used to think I was the best thing ever, and they're now asking me why I'm with them or if I really love them, and they're just questioning what I see in them. It just gets really exhausting. And because they have low self-esteem, they take everything that I say as an attack on them, and they become defensive rather than being open to working on things together and hearing me out. So I've come to realize that if someone thinks that you're out of their league and also doesn't have healthy self-esteem to help counterbalance that, it's likely not going to bode very well for the relationship. The third biggest red flag is that they have had a difficult or neglectful childhood and they haven't done the work to heal. So someone who has experienced a lot of emotional neglect or trauma in their childhood is unlikely to be a good long-term partner unless they have done significant healing work. If someone avoids talking about their childhood, or they give very vague details or seem very guarded about their childhood, they can't open up about it and act like their childhood is irrelevant, that is a massive red flag because it means that they haven't really made peace with the past. A more subtle and common red flag is when someone does talk about their childhood, but they do it in a way that feels very detached, like they're kind of just recounting facts, and there's no emotional resonance or meaning making behind what they're saying. So if they're talking about it in a way that seems very indifferent or matter of fact, then that is also a red flag. So I had briefly dated a guy who told me that his parents used to go out partying and left him to sleep in the car as a kid. And that is obviously a sign of emotional neglect, right? And so when I asked how it made him feel, he said to me, "Oh, it was fine. I was just sleeping and I was too young to care." And the fact that he brushed it off and acted like it didn't matter and it was no big deal was a massive red flag. Because someone who had processed their past would have responded with more insight and acknowledgement of the impact that that had had on them. And any kind of dismissiveness around childhood wounds just shows that those wounds are still unexamined and currently active. And so they're likely still playing out in relationship dynamics. The fourth biggest red flag is that their friendships are all surface level. So another subtle but very common and telling sign of emotional unavailability is when someone seems really social, they seem well adjusted and they're surrounded by friends. But when you look more closely at those friendships, you realize that those connections are shallow or one-sided. So I once dated a guy with a huge friend group and I was shocked. It was like a group of 20 friends. They all went on holiday together and they always had weekend plans. And on the surface, it seemed like he had an incredible social life, an incredible support system. But as I got to know him, I realized that none of these friends really knew him. And there was no emotional intimacy and no vulnerability to these connections. And it became clear that his friendships were more about distraction and entertainment than actual connection. And I came to realize that it was an early sign that he was uncomfortable with emotional intimacy and closeness. The final red flag is that you will find yourself wondering where you stand. You will get this kind of feeling that they're holding back or they're not quite able to let you in or progress forwards. You feel this sense of stop, start, lean in, pull back. And it feels kind of jerky and it lacks a sense of continuity. And this sort of jerky rhythm of leaning in, pull back is classic for someone who is afraid of commitment, who is emotionally unavailable, or just is battling with deeper fears around intimacy. So that is a red flag to look out for. Your self-love has to come first. And that's why I made this sweatshirt, and I'm wearing this sweatshirt that says that self-love is the best kind of love. You can shop this on my website, which I'm going to link down below. I have a lot of different wearable affirmations on there to remind you of your worth and of your purpose. I know that the dating scene these days is pretty brutal and is very tricky to navigate. So it's definitely important to exercise your discernment and to just be really grounded in your own self-worth when you're entering these situations. So I really hope that this video on dating red flags helped you. Let me know what your biggest dating red flags are. I'd be really curious to know. Like and subscribe to join the Reloved family, and I will see you in my next video.